Hi, I'm Rachel, and welcome to my NaNoWriMo 2023 Week 3 vlog. We are really in it now. We are almost to the midpoint of this whole project, and I'm certainly starting this week in a better place than I did last week, or than I spent most of week 2. In fact, I was able to make it back to the word count where I'm supposed to be, and then the big thing will be if I can keep it up for the month, especially during the work week and all that, and especially when there's, some things that might take me away from the writing. For example, tonight, usually I'd go to my writing salon, but my synagogue has a personal relationship with one of the families of one of the captives in Gaza right now, Hirsch Goldberg Poland. His parents are going to be in town to talk to us, and due to, current events and community and all of that, I figured I'd want to go to that, even though I'd traditionally be writing at that time. But I do have other big events this week that'll play into my rebel writing, my blogging. I'm going to a play tomorrow night that I'm going to be covering in my Jewish DC vlog. And then over the weekend is the Hunger Games prequel premiere, which I'm so crazy excited about. And I've already done my NaNoBlogmo post 1 about the trailer stuff and the build up and all that. And I'm so excited to also review the movie. And I'm also, in the middle of doing my reread of the book. And so, yeah, fun, excitingness abounds. I'm so looking forward to this. And yeah, other than that, I'll be taking you around as usual, I hope, and giving updates on other reading and on my fantasy novel exploits, where I am currently in the middle of chapter 36. There's been some ups and downs. I've done some writing and rewriting, but I think through all of this, rambliness and, trial and retrial, I am slowly, getting the story to where I want it to be. So that feels pretty good. And I can only hope that at the end of the week I'll be further along and feel as optimistic that at least I'll have something on the page that I can work with come December and beyond. So yeah, bringing some good momentum, I hope, into this mid-November week.
Daven every morning. I've done that for years, but using Tehillim is like a very helpful tool. It really is a self-help book that's very DIY. Wait, DIY? Right, that, yes. No brain cells, no sleep, many days. Because I like that there are ones that just say, what the hell? Yes. And that's helpful. Yes. So I think the combination of those things, and then also just being really honest. I mean, there are times where, I feel bad saying this here, but sometimes there's really shitty days.
You can say that. Yes.
On the bima.
God can handle it.
Right? I mean, God is giving us a lot to handle, so it's okay. Anyway, and when that happens, thank God. I do have to say, I said it to Libby yesterday. I said, we could only do this. I could only do this with John. So, and when you have to sob in a way that's doesn't sound familiar, doesn't sound human, you do it. And then you wipe your face off and you say, I have a mission to do, and I'm going back to work now.
With some mixed feelings, I decided to attend the big rally happening in DC today for my personal reasons of standing for, Israeli and Palestinian citizens, standing with the hostages and standing against anti-Semitism, and also especially standing with my own personal community. My synagogue has a group of people who are going with this and to this, and I, ardently believe in, my rabbis and what they teach, and that they embrace complexities and empathy. In general, I'm wary of any rallies, the way that it can oversimplify messages and the realities of the conflicts they are opining about in one way or the other. It does make me a little wary. This is a big tent event. There's a lot of Jewish organizations that have put this together. I know there's going to be people there, among the tens of thousands who I vehemently disagree with, hopefully more that I much more agree with. And I'm mostly there to stand with my own particular community. And in fact, last night when I was at the synagogue, I picked up these shirts that marchers are going to wear today when hopefully I find them this afternoon. And on the other side, it says, "Our hearts are with Israel." And in fact, this does sort of align with my fantasy project, believe it or not. I am writing a fantasy project for Nano with a lot of inspiration from Jewish culture and history. And thematically, I do believe big questions I'm asking and forcing my protagonist to reckon with are, she's learning more about the complications and the nuances of her history that aren't so neat and tidy. But at the same time, sometimes it is worthy and valid to stand with the community and question, well, how do we do that? And what's the best way to do that? And in fact, in this part of the story that I'm writing, a major religious figure just died. And so the community is in a bit of flux and everybody's sort of scrambling for the next steps. And so I feel like in, broad thematic ways, what I am doing today really does speak to a lot of the themes and I'm trying to also write about in my fiction. I'm back home after the rally. Quite an experience being around all of those people. I feel like my favorite part really was having my shirt and being part of my particular tribe with my synagogue, and then looking around at all the other people who were part of their tribes. Like we had people coming in from federations and synagogues from different cities and what have you, or people wearing shirts about the hostages. So I like that we had our different affiliations, but we're broadly together as well. It felt homey that way. But anyway, to pivot into something a little more lighthearted, today is also the day that the Goodreads Choice Award nominations are announced for the first round, and so I thought I'd look at them. I'm not sure how many of the titles I'll even actually recognize. I feel like this year I've been a little less, invested in that world, or I know fewer of the titles, but I guess we'll go ahead and see how it turns out. Okay, here we go into the nominations. I'll just start with fiction. All right, well, I know I recognize Itaf Rum and Mame, and there's the Ann Patchett and Yellowface, Family Meal, Brian Washington. Yeah, I recognize some of these names and some of these titles, some of these authors. Unsurprisingly, I'm not seeing one that I've read out of this collection. Oh, there's Alice Hoffman. That's kind of cool. Alrighty, so nothing I can vote for here. Okay, historical fiction. Oh, well, I see the James McBride. I've heard of that one before. But other than that, I'm a little, Lisa C., I know that name, but I'm a little less, Lauren Groff, Jesmyn Ward, so maybe I know a little more than I thought. I don't know. Oh, Isabel Allende is there, okay, and once again, nothing I have read. And what? Romantasy? This is an actual new category. What is happening here? This hardly seems fair. I mean, there's so many, mashup categories. I'm kind of stunned by this. So yeah, these are, I'd say these are fantasy titles, but here we have a new whole section for them. I mean, what's going on here? And still, unsurprisingly, I haven't read any of them, although I think I know some people from my salon who probably have. But What is this? Oh, this is a thing. This is a thing. All right, now into real fantasy, or I guess now maybe this will be more fantasy that might actually interest me more, because I'm not so much into fantasy romance, so maybe this will be better for me. But I mean, I'm recognizing a lot of names and titles here, and yeah, I guess I'm most interested maybe in the Salman Rushdie, and I'm not sure what else really stands out. Well, I do want to read Swordcatcher ultimately, because it's Cassandra Clare's foray into Jewish fantasy. Oh, finally, yes, A Day of Fallen Night. Oh, yay, I've actually read that, and I definitely want to vote for it. It's definitely one of my favorite books of the year, so huzzah, I finally get to vote for something. And now we have science fiction. I mean, I'm recognizing, again, names and titles somewhere. What interests me the most, I don't know. I feel like I should want to read the Scalzi just because of the cat. I'm hoping maybe something will... Oh, there's Adrian Tchaikovsky. I do want to read him ultimately. I'll hopefully get to him sooner or later. Oh, okay, great. Here's Translation State. I did read that. I liked that enough. It seems to be the only thing I've actually read here, so I guess I'll be voting for it. Look at this. I don't really think there'll be anything here either that I actually... Oh, well, I'm now looking at contemporary YA fiction, and there is a Jewish title that I put into, like, I think of as romance, or I guess it's technically YA romance, The Imogen, obviously. So that actually that interests me, but I haven't read it yet. But hey, there's something in YA contemporary for me. I've gone ahead and I've just skimmed through all the other categories, humor being the last one. So the last thing I notice here is not only do we have a romantasy category, but we also don't have, middle grade and children's anymore. That's kind of surprising to me, at least the middle grade category. Middle grade's kind of a big deal. I wonder what that's about, or if they're going to squeeze it into YA categories. I don't know, but yeah, I think the most surprising thing here for me is the categories for the GCA this year. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if people will be talking about that. So yeah, but I'm excited to at least look into some of these titles. I can vote at least in a couple of the categories. But for now, I'm going to head off and go see a play that I'm covering for my Jewish DC blog.
Important. This is the most important question you'll ever ask yourself about your characters. It's what flavor of cake would your main character like? If they don't seem like a cake person, what dessert would they like? Or do they hate sweets altogether and want something else?
Oh man. I haven't asked myself that about my main character, and I feel like I don't even know them. What about you?
I feel like she would be I feel like she'd be okay with sweets, but not really a cake person. I'm getting cupcake vibes. Not sure which flavor yet, but cupcake vibes for sure.
Nice. There's a bakery down the street from me that sells it's kind of cupcake flights. They're very tiny cupcakes.
Cute.
4 different kinds, which I really enjoy. If anybody's looking for a writing treat.
I know in some locations around here, I know in an airport, I don't know where else they have it, but they have this cupcake vending machine.
Cool.
And I'm that sounds so futuristic to me. Just be able to order cupcakes from the vending machine.
Yeah, wild. 7-Up pound cake. Man, that is a very specific cake for a character, and I feel like it tells me a lot about them.
Let's see. Oh, everyone got cake opinions.
What have you done, Jesse?
I'm also curious if y'all like the character, like your character's favorite, or you're just like, I would never eat this, but this is what I love.
We said, no, give her strong coffee, nothing sweet.
I like Journey's maybe is something I think an ice cream float.
People saying, oh man, now I want cake. I'm sorry. I've been watching Great British Bake Off. I've done the thing I shouldn't, that always happens to me when I watch that show where I'm like, okay, now I need a snack. I'm sorry.
Maria says Skittles, not cake.
Ooh. That makes me want to know what a Skittles cake would taste like.
Oh.
In other big news this week, I'm about to sit down for a job interview. It's been a long time since I've had one of these. We did not do it over the Zoom. Back then, there was no Zoom. Mostly you go in person, I think. Not so much anymore, but so anyway, I'm sitting here at home in the morning when the sun comes in, pretty bright through the doors there. So I decided to sit over here where hopefully it was a good place with, the sun and the shadow for, the viewing, all the things I should know from doing booktube videos. But yeah, I have my computer where hopefully I can look at notes. I have my iPad that I've tried to clear some of the worst smudges off of. Hopefully, I don't think it'll actually impact the video call part of it. I'll still be able to see them and everything. But yeah, feeling a little anxious, feeling a little nervous, and hope this goes well. It is much later, and I can go back to lounging on this couch in the proper way. But I think my interview went well. Maybe I could even tentatively add excited to my list, or at least I'm very happy with how my research and the way I conducted myself went. It was a good learning experience, and hopefully good things will come of it. But yeah, it's been quite a week for me, as you've seen. A lot of stuff going on in my life personally and, in a broader political way. But we are now halfway through NaNoWriMo, and I did not make the 25K mark at the proper time, but I am hoping that I will be getting back on track soon. I'm feeling like I should be okay with myself for working as slowly as I am on my fantasy novel right now, maybe because, in all honesty, I'm working on the couple of chapters that I'm supposed to be sending to my beta reading group in early December, so I don't want them to be too rough. So that's the reality I'm living with here. It's a weird situation, but I love what I've been doing with my beta reading group. It's a major reason, as major as Nano, that this novel is getting written. So yeah, I'm just taking my rebelliousness in all sorts of ways, but I do still, keep myself accountable in the long term to the 50K mark. So yeah, it's can be a struggle with other things going on in my life and with just the usual challenges of getting words on the page, but I am still plugging along here. And I hope to have some good things to show you in the pipeline soon. I have just about 100 pages left in my reread of A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I feel relatively confident to talk about it. I do know what's coming down the pike at the very end here. It has been interesting to revisit this work and remind myself of some of the particulars. I've remembered, of course, most of the general action of what's happening. Of course, it's extra challenging to think about this story and the times we're in. Suzanne Collins wrote it in response to rising authoritarianism. It was what she gave as her inspiration. There's definitely been some in the U.S. and in other countries around the world. And, of course, right now, there's things like the Israel and Gaza conflict going on. This really isn't as much like that. I mean, I'm a big Suzanne Collins stan. I think she asks complicated questions. It actually is helpful that she has to get in the mindset of Coriolanus, who I think his particular vantage point is very different, or certainly coded as antagonistic, even before he becomes the out-and-out villain. He's been raised with this sort of simple-minded bigotry that like allows him to, keep his us versus them mentality, and it's not helped along by the trauma he experienced during the war and continues in some ways to experience because his family remains impoverished because their holdings were in District 13, which was destroyed. So it's all these nice little details that come into the story. Like, the subplot that he also has to worry that the capital is imposing taxes on his property that his family can't pay. But anyway, I mean, what's happening in the capital in the story, though, is even though they had been abused and, the war was awful for them, at this point, there doesn't seem to be any sort of antagonism toward capital civilians. And everything seems pretty one-sided by this point with the Hunger Games. Like I was thinking, the major act of terrorism in the first half of this story is when there's somebody planted bombs in the arena. But the arena is only ever used for the Hunger Games. So, it's hard to not understand that as maybe an act of mercy. And it's not about, targeting civilians who otherwise would have been safe. And then we get into the second half of the story in the districts, and it's interesting, and you look into the peacekeeper mentality and how some people from the districts actually join the peacekeepers to, feed their families and help with that, and the ways that the capital can, encourage people from the districts to, take part in their, institutions, really, and in that life. Which is certainly less antagonistic than the Hunger Games, but the big thing about the Hunger Games in this story is that the War Department is trying to actually make it more visible, that most people, in a way, the Hunger Games wouldn't be as challenged because most people weren't looking at them or thinking about them and just were thinking about the trauma of the war that preceded them. But now, they're trying to make it, to gamify it, and to, make it into something of an entertainment. And so, I mean, I just thought it was a fascinating look into how people use these methods to dehumanize what's happening, what's really happening. Although, ironically, the trajectory of the games is in this version, all of the districts, the tributes are treated brutally, from start to end, whereas by Katniss's time, they're treated like pampered celebrities until they're dropped in the arena. I just, I really love all of the thematic parts of this story and the questions Suzanne is asking. And when it comes to Koryo as a protagonist, I really respect, that she wrote a character who you can see from the beginning has these attitudes that will only metastasize into something worse. And I feel like the relationship with Lucy Gray is fascinating, both, for the thematic instances of how his culture has conditioned him to see her in the games, but also just how we all naturally, I think, move toward, trying to foster these relationships. Like that, it's the human condition to want companionship. And I don't only mean romantic, I just mean in general. Which I guess is my response to, the villain of this story and her Hobbesian insistence that everyone is violent and chaos is the reigning force of humanity, and that obviously the only answer is a strong authoritarian hand. And my response is humans long for relationships, even when they themselves are deeply flawed. So yeah, I could ramble on and on about this, and hopefully I'll, write up a good review of the book and then go to see the movie and write up even more. It's going to be a big old Hunger Games weekend. Good morning! We have reached the weekend part of week 3 of Nano. Hopefully a time when I can really put my pedal to the metal when it comes to all of the words that are a little more difficult for me to get to in the week, apparently. I'll give myself a little bit of a break. This past week has had a lot of personal and political things going on in it. But now we're into the weekend, which technically also can be very busy in parts. So, for example, as I leave my condo today, my county is putting on their annual Thanksgiving Day parade, which very directly affects my route to get to the metro for transit into DC. So hopefully it won't take too long to get around the massive crowds and all of that. Unfortunately, I can't stop and see it myself this year, but I'll probably see some setup of the parade. This afternoon, I will be at the Writers' Salon in DC, hunking away at Chapter 36. I'm hoping I can finish it today, my fantasy project chapter, but I don't want to hold myself too much to that. I want to hold myself to just getting out words, whatever words, but what my characters are up to now is doing a lot of traveling themselves, as there's a lot of things that are upended in their country with the death of a religious figure, I think I mentioned before, and my main character was in another city doing on a civic duty program, basically, with some of her peers, and now they're traveling back to the capital to deal with the fallout of the next steps of this big, political religious thing that's happening. But along the way, I'm fleshing out the world and showing other people and other places, and my character goes through things because I am an interior sort of writer. That's what I do. So yeah, that's what I have going on. I also have, I think I know where the chapter will end, which hopefully will, be a banger of an ending, encourage people to read the next chapter once I have it. So yeah, that's what's going on today, and tomorrow I have the Hunger Games prequel, which I'm hugely excited about. I'm going to a nearby neighborhood in my southern Maryland, outside of DC area, to go to a nice theater and maybe go to Panera afterwards and then get in more writing. And hopefully, beyond all this stuff I've mentioned, I have a lot of other white space to really do lots and lots of writing, and that I'll be able to show you some good results down here at the bottom of the screen. We shall see. So I made the mistake of telling a colleague I was going to see the Hunger Games movie this weekend, and he rambled off, "Oh, well, the ratings are the lowest of the whole franchise." I'm like, thanks for ruining my buzz, man. Thanks a lot for that. I mean, I guess, if I were to justify staying in a bubble for any experience I've had this week, it would certainly be my affiliation with a pop culture franchise. But yeah, I've taken a look at some of the reviews, and it's heartening to me that at least a few of them seem to find in this story what I find in the story, that I'm not alone in this, which I guess isn't really surprising, seeing as, every book has gotten an adaptation. One of them has gotten 2 movies, and, there's other YA that's out there right now, like Divergent and Shadow and Bone now, that, weren't able to tell their full stories, but The Hunger Games has been, so obviously I'm not alone. But more broadly than that, I'm thinking about, what we're doing here with NaNoWriMo, and I know that a lot of us are pouring our hearts and souls into what we are writing, the stories we are telling right now. I certainly think I'm pouring maybe too much of my heart and soul into A Song of the Wanderers, and that's why it's taking me a long time to draft it, and I'm putting a lot of thought, maybe too much, into the ideas I'm trying to grapple with community and diaspora and trauma and culture and character stuff and everything else. It means a lot to me, and I want to get it onto the page properly for what I, want this story to convey. I mean, well, insofar, obviously, as an author can convey anything. Obviously, we're putting so much time and effort into these stories, and even though, most of us aren't that near the finish line yet in terms of publication, it can come down the pike later on when other people do read it that they just brush it off or dismiss it or, don't, see the things that we put into it. It's just something that I've been thinking about. But, I guess the silver lining is that hopefully there'll be at least someone or a group of someones that will see that, want to grapple with the themes and the messages the way that, you're putting them in there, because everything's such a mix. There's obviously objective criticism about writing, and then there's subjective criticism about people who just don't care about, the questions that Suzanne Collins is asking about authoritarianism, or the questions I'm asking about, peoplehood, and so, that's just the way it is. But, I'm just going to go in with, I guess, that hope that, there's always hopefully going to be someone who sees through everything, and has a connection to all of the work that we're putting into these stories. That's my hope. And now I'm going to go off and see this movie.